What was it that made you join?
I was a 19-year-old kid. Just found out my girlfriend was pregnant.
Holy shnikes. I sat down with Randy Couture. The weekend we caught up, he was being inducted into the US Wrestling Hall of Fame, but he was nice enough to make some time for me. So Randy, thank you. Thank you for not just sitting down with me, but for rolling with it when we were interrupted by staff and when the electricity went out, and for everything you're doing for veterans. Thank you. Now, if you haven't seen Regular Veteran before, that's not surprising. This is a new channel page thing. I'm Scott, and I'm giving you tips, tricks, and tutorials on how to make the most of your veteran status. So without further ado,
to figure out how to support a new family, and I had already sold my car. I literally didn't own anything. So
okay.
I went and took the tests with a recruiter and see what I was eligible for, and came back that I was eligible for whatever I wanted to do. And at that time, they were offering a $5,000 enlistment bonus for anybody who qualified for air traffic control.
Okay.
Ronald Reagan had just fired all the air traffic controllers.
Ronnie did what?
The union demands are 17 times what had been agreed to, $681 million. This would impose a tax burden on their fellow citizens which is unacceptable. It is for this reason that I must tell those who fail to report for duty this morning they are in violation of the law, and if they do not report for work within 48 hours, they have forfeited their jobs and will be terminated.
All the military guys got out, took those civilian jobs, which were pretty lucrative jobs, left a huge void in the military for ATC.
Every branch has them. We all hate them. Acronyms. They're the bane of my existence. ATC happens to mean air traffic control. I'll be back for the next one.
So,
sorry guys.
So they left a huge void in the military for ATC. So $5,000 was a hell of a lot of money to me at that time. So I went ahead and signed. I was on delayed entry. This was in December of 1981.
Okay.
And they put me on 6 months delayed entry. I was scheduled to leave the next October of 1982. So I spent the rest of the summer working at a golf course and preparing for the birth of my son. He was born that August.
I actually met your son last night. We chatted for a little bit. He's really awesome.
Yeah, great kid, smart kid.
So he was...
a lot smarter than I am. So, but that's what you want. That's what you hope.
Oh, absolutely. So he was the reason, kind of, he instigated you looking that direction?
Find a way to, realizing it was going to be very difficult for me to go to college and finish and stay in school. And the same was true of what was going to be my new wife.
Okay.
So I chose to join the service.
And then, you chose air traffic control and waited until that position was open and then went in after the delayed enlistment program. That's.
Are you reliant on that electricity?
No, you're still going.
All right.
It's a little darker.
Yeah. So yeah, that was the impetus for me making the decision to join.
Okay.
Was to support a family,
and that's why you picked the job, because the bonus.
Yeah, the bonus was a huge thing to me and the family.
I joined because the bonus.
So went to basic training. Part of the late entry issue was a backlog of basic trainees.
Oh, okay.
At that time? It's the peak of the Cold War, and a lot of people joining, and so they were backlogged. I was originally slated to go to South Carolina, Fort Jackson. They ended up pushing me to Fort Bliss, Texas. Okay. Went to basic at Fort Bliss, AIT at Fort Rucker, Alabama, and then my first duty station was Germany, and I was in a company tour.
Okay, so they went with you?
My wife and young son were, until I got over there, found an apartment. They wouldn't cut orders, so I spent about 3 months over there by myself.
Okay.
Looking for an apartment. It was not easy. There was a long waiting list for on-base housing.
Where were you in Germany?
I was in Hanau, West Germany.
Okay. I was at Ramstein.
Okay. Yeah, I was at Fliegerhorst Kaserne, which now, since the Cold War closed, is no longer operational.
Totally.
So I rolled in there. It took me a while to find an apartment. Finally found a really crappy little apartment in the back of a junkyard, basically. Yeah. And the orders were cut, they came over.
All right. So your wife came over, your son came over, and then and you were in Germany. You started wrestling for the U.S. Army team, right?
Eventually.
Was that there?
I started wrestling on the club team in Hanau.
Okay.
And traveling to different bases around Germany, wrestling in tournaments around Germany. Eventually, they had what was the equivalent of a state championship? It was a European theater championship, U.S. Army Europe.
Totally.
And I ended up winning the freestyle championship and second in the Greco championship, and I had never wrestled Greco until I showed up in Germany, so it was a whole new thing for me. And that got me a chance to try out for the All-Army wrestling team. But that took it was about 2 years there. Those first 2 years were both in training and then kind of working my way up to getting a shot at the trials.
Okay, and how did it affect work, you wrestling?
I had to get TDY orders.
TDY is kind of a weird acronym. Some people say it means temporary duty yonder. Some people say the Y from TDY comes from the Y at the end of duty, but no one really knows, and it doesn't really make sense. It really just means that you're leaving home and they gotta sign permission slips. The more you know.
Not to go wrestle in country, in theater.
Okay.
But when I eventually got the chance to go to the All-Army team trials, I had to get my unit commander to sign off on it. Say, yeah, it's okay. You can go spend the next 8 weeks. This particular year was at Fort Dix, New Jersey, for the wrestle-offs and see if he makes the team.
All right.
He was a West Point guy. He was a football player. He loved athletics anyway. We did a lot of athletic stuff in our unit. So he was like, heck yeah, that's cool, awesome. And let me go. So
nice.
And I ended up making the team, which he thought was a great thing. And I spent 6 months away from my unit and my family. I sent my wife and son back to Seattle, where we grew up. That 6 months while I was away, wrestling with the Army and the Army team.
All right. You were in for a total of 6 years, right?
I was in for a total of 6 years. I spent 4 of those 6 years wrestling for the Army team. And
all right.
I actually didn't do a lot of air traffic control after that. I'd come back to my unit for 6 months in the fall, wrestle for the club team, wrestle on the circuit in Germany, do my job basically, and then January time frame would roll around, the trials would roll in again. Once I'd made the team, you automatically get a chance to come back and try out again. Okay. And I continued to make the team every year after that. I won inter-service championships and that stuff.
Was it your success in those trials that made you get out and pursue wrestling?
Well, that was the decision to get out of the Army in 1988 and not re-enlist was a huge decision for me. Since we were stationed in Germany, we had another child. Okay. My daughter was born there in Frankfurt. I was doing very, very well, on track to make the national team and get a crack at making the Olympic team in '88, which is something I thought was gone when I was having a kid. Okay. So it was a big deal for me to make a decision like that. What was I going to do? How was I going to continue to support my family? Now I'm full of fire with this dream of I can actually make the Olympic team.
Absolutely, you've seen so much
and so
success.
I had to really make a decision what I wanted to do. We left Germany in '86. I extended my enlistment to get to the '88 trials. Okay. That's why I was in for 6 years. I was actually only signed up for 4. Okay. So I extended my enlistment. Wanted to experience at stateside duty station anyway. They stationed the All-Army Wrestling team at that time at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Okay. So we left Germany, PCS.
PCS is the easiest acronym. Permanent change of station. You're either permanently changing your station or you're temporarily doing so.
To Fort Campbell.
And then your job was strictly wrestling?
Well, I ran into a rhubarb. Like I said, I had to get TDY orders. I was in the 192nd Air Traffic Control Company, which was a tactical air traffic control company. My base in Germany was both tactical and fixed base. Okay. We had an airfield with a 3,000-foot runway. It was one of the biggest runways in the Fulda Gap, which was strategically located if there was an actual war. Totally. So we had that fixed base operation, but we also had the tactical equipment where we went on reforge exercises and set up landing zones and stuff for pilots and all that. The 192nd was part of the 118th Airborne Corps, and they were only a tactical unit. They only went out in the field and set up LZs and stuff for operations. That commander's like, by God, we trained you as an air traffic controller, you're going to be a damn air traffic controller. He would not sign those TDY orders. By that time, in '86, I already won a couple of inter-service championships and was working into the rankings in the national team. And so the All-Army coach, Coach Winter, had to go to DOD, basically, and get me reassigned to a garrison unit. It's a fixed unit on base that helps run the infrastructure of the 101st Airborne. I got assigned to the sports department, which was a cakewalk job. I literally engraved trophies for the intramural football and soccer and inventoried all the equipment in the sports office.
They wanted you to come wrestle, so they'd give you whatever
and
job.
So they reassigned me to that 101st Airborne Garrison unit, and that freed me up. That commander didn't give a rip. He was like, yeah, sure. And so I spent my last 2 years there at Fort Campbell in the sports department and continuing to wrestle.
And then, so you made that decision to get out, and
well, every year that, there's not much going on in international wrestling in the fall. After the World Championships or the Olympics happen in the end of summer and fall, there's really a big lull. So all of us, all-army wrestling guys, are sitting around in our units there at Fort Campbell, still training on the mats every day, and one of the guys is like, hey, there's an college open tournament coming up at Thanksgiving, down at UT Chattanooga. Let's go down there and wrestle. And I'm like, okay. So a bunch of us went down to UT Chattanooga over Thanksgiving. It was a kickoff of the collegiate season. It was an open tournament, so we could enter, but it was collegiate rules. And so I had to make 190. At that time, I was cutting to 180, so 190 was a cakewalk. Ended up winning that tournament 2 years in a row at 190. And all these college coaches are like, who the hell is that kid? Where'd he come from? He just kicked the shit out of my 190-pounder, and I've never seen him before.
How old were you at that point?
I was 23.
23, two kids.
Yeah.
All right.
And so these guys started asking questions. Guys like Larry Christoph from Southern Illinois University and Clemson. A bunch of those schools come to that Southern Open, and they found out I had 4 years eligibility, never matriculated. So the phone started ringing. And I was also at that time breaking in. It was the first time I'd placed in the top 3 at the Nationals, started kind of making the national rankings as well. Same thing, college coaches are like,
hot commodity.
Even though it was Greco, the college coaches, I was wrestling freestyle as well. College coaches were like, who is this guy? And that's when I ended up having to make that decision. Talked to Floyd a lot about it. Obviously he was still coaching. He would have loved to have kept me in the service. It was one of his guys that was winning and doing well. But he understood the gravity of the situation and the opportunity for me to take a college scholarship and go get a college degree. And, so he supported what I ultimately decided to do and actually steered me towards Oklahoma State. He had done a stint here in Stillwater at the Hall of Fame. And knew about the heritage of Oklahoma State wrestling and all of that. He said, if I were you, that's where you belong. That's where you need to go. And I took a visit here. I took a visit at Bakersfield. I took a visit to Clemson. And then, the pros and cons started, the checklist, the sales meeting, where am I going to go? And chose to come to Oklahoma State.
And so obviously you had a long career after that, UFC and such, but what made you start the GI Foundation? Well,
in obviously 9/11, I think changed our world, certainly. And having worn the uniform, kind of understanding the training, the commitment that service members take when they sign on that dotted line. There was a part of me that's like, I'm re-upping. I'm going to go re-enlist. This is what I trained to do. This is where I was at, and I also knew that wasn't very realistic. So it wasn't until 1996 I got the chance to go to Iraq and spend 12 days on the ground with Rich Franklin, with soldiers there fighting, and see what was up. And then the next year in '97, I got to go to Walter Reed in Bethesda in D.C. This is when old Walter Reed was still standing, and go to the Fisher House, meet a bunch of the families that were there with soldiers that were fresh off the battlefield, going through getting fixed, fitted,
whatever that means,
transition. And it was there that you know, walking into those wards, meeting those mothers, wives, sisters, dads and brothers in those rooms with those guys, that I was like, man, we got to do something. These guys are struggling. They're in transition, sometimes up to 2 years. Some of them.
Yeah.
Moms losing jobs, wives losing jobs, cars in hawk. Just the stories I heard were remarkable, and I was like, how in the hell?
Totally.
And so it just didn't compute. I couldn't fathom it. And filed for 501c3, said we're going to raise some money. We're going to try and help as many of these people as we can help that are stuck in this situation, that are in transition. And we started the Xtreme Couture GI Foundation then. We've been operating the foundation with my gym staff and many of my friends and family for 10 years now. And there's no overhead. They all volunteer. Most of them already work for me anyway.
Yeah,
so
yeah. All right.
I don't pay anybody.
That's amazing.
They do it because they love it, because they want to, because they love the events, they love the cause, they love what we stand for, and 100% of everything that we raise from our events goes to a soldier and his family.
That's really amazing, because I know that that's something that's difficult for a lot of the nonprofits, that they have to build an infrastructure so that they can get the resources out to people. So
yeah, we're in a unique situation with you know, Natural Couture Inc., my corporation, and Xtreme Couture MMA, my gym, and the clothing company, and all the stuff that I had already built through fighting.
Yeah.
That I didn't need. I had infrastructure. I've got a COO. I've got a VP that's great at tech stuff and graphic design, and also, I mean, we get new shirts and new posters and cards, and whatever we need just comes out of the machine that I already had built from fighting. So. That's our only expense, is what those things cost us to put together these and started with a motorcycle poker run. And now we've done golf tournaments, we've done 5K runs, we've done country concerts. The motorcycle poker run's been our long-standing go-to. We just had our 10th motorcycle poker run last weekend, and we raised $13,000. We had 170 bikes show up. It was an amazing day, and you know, that night was our 6th annual country concert with Mark Wills at Stoney's Rockin' Country, and they give us the venue, they keep the liquor, and we get the tickets for the event. Okay. And Mark was fantastic, and you know, it started with Gary Allen 6 years ago. Other country guys, that Joe Nichols played for us, Gary Allen a few times, Craig Morgan a few times, Daryl Worley a few times, and we've just had some amazing talent. American Young.
That's awesome.
Just amazing folks donate for the most part. Aaron Lewis, another one, donate their time, their talent, their energy towards this cause.
That's remarkable. It's amazing to see what you're doing. The money that you've raised and the lives that you're obviously changing with that it gives me chills. Pretty amazing, huh? I love that you get to learn about him and the military all at the same time. The next video that will be up is a quick tutorial on how to sign up for your GI Bill benefits. If you want to get tips, tricks, and tutorials on making the most of your veteran status, come right back here. Regular veteran, booyah! I got a little excited there. Just come back to regular veteran.